Lesson today is solving a system of linear equations, and I'm going to be using my whiteboard over here to show the work. Alright, so the first thing we want to do is write down our two equations. So y equals 2x minus 3 is my first equation. My second equation is y equals negative 3x plus 1. Alright, so we have a system, and which means the x's and y's, we're looking for a common xy value for each of these equations. Well, these two y's are supposed to be the same. And so I can say, well, look, the right side of this equation is equal to y. This y is supposed to be equal to this y. And so this y is equal to the right side of this equation. So what I'm going to do is set the right sides equal to each other. So 2x minus 3 equals negative 3x plus 1. Alright, I have x's on both sides, one variable only, so I need to get that x alone. I can either move the 2x to the right by subtracting it, or I can move the 3x to the left by adding it. I prefer to keep the x term positive, so I'm going to choose to add 3x to both sides. That gives me on the left side 5x minus 3. These drop out to 0, and I have 1 on the right side. I now start trying to get this x alone. I typically use my red pen to show what I'm doing to both sides. So what I'm going to do is add 3 to both sides. And that's going to give me a 5x equals 4. Final step, if it's 5 times x, I do the opposite to get the x alone. I divide both sides by 5. And I now have x equals 4/5. If we want to change that to a decimal, we could multiply top and bottom by 2, which gives me 8/10, and therefore 4/5 as a decimal is equal to 8/10. So that's what the value of my x is. I now want to take that value and put it back in one of the two equations. Either one would work. I'm going to put it in the first equation to find out what the y value is. So y equals 2 times 4/5, and 4/5 minus 3. So I multiply 2 times 4, multiplying the numerators, and I have 8/5 minus 3. If I want to subtract those two as fractions, basically I'm going to change the 3 to 15/5. 15 divided by 5 is 3, so y is equal to 8/5 minus 15/5. I have common denominators, so I can subtract the numerators. 8 minus 15 is negative 7 over the common denominator 5. There's my y value. Alright, if I change that to a decimal, I can do it by multiplying top and bottom by 2 again to change to tenths. That's negative 14/10, and that's also equal to negative 1.4 as a decimal. So my y value is negative 7/5 or negative 1.4. Alright, so let's look at what that would be on a grid. Alright. So here's my grid, and I'm going to choose to show the grid markings, give it a little bit more space here. I'm going to type these two equations in, so it's 2x minus 3 is my first equation, and my second equation is negative 3x plus 1. And we could do this with regular paper and pencil and a grid, but we're looking for this point of intersection just to get a little verification. So I can actually ask for that point of intersection on this tool called GeoGebra. And there's my point A, and if we look at what that's equal to, it's equal to the two decimals we looked at before in our paper and pencil work, 0.8 and negative 1.4. So our paper and pencil work is giving us verification the electronic graph gives us verification that these are our correct answers.